more information. So anyway, I picked the Gifts of Imperfection because it talks about the needing of embracing. And to me, loving or embracing is synonymous to loving. So if you read the book, she discussed that love is basically not just this one linear thought. Everybody has their own definition of what love is. So discuss self-love, we must unpack the word of love. So for me personally, again, embracing is synonymous with loving. If you fully embrace something for exactly how it shows up authentically, to me, it would make sense that you love that thing. Okay, the book goes into definition of love and how, okay, I said that. So Dr. Brene defines it on page 26. Love is not something we give or get. It is something that we nurture and grow. A connection that can only be cultivated between two people when it exists within each one of them. We can only love others as much as we love ourselves. So I felt like this was a great starting point, especially just talking to my counselor and telling her, like, I have these intrusive thoughts. Sometimes I get plagued by fear. And it just all meshes up together to this one just overarching theme of self-love. It seems like, for me personally, that's what the lesson is. So I also wanted to include other people's definition of love. There was a quote included in the book, again on page 26, from Bell Hooks. And that quote reads, "To begin by always thinking of love as an action rather than a feeling is one way in which anyone using the word in this manner automatically assumes accountability and responsibility." So overall, from 3 different perspectives, love is an action. It's a verb. It's something that you do, not something necessarily that you feel. I have another one by Dr. Maya Angelou and then Rumi. So love recognizes no barriers. It jumps hurdles, leaps fences, penetrates walls to arrive at its destination full of hope. And then Rumi describes it as, the way you make love is the way God will be with you until your eyes constantly exhale love as effortlessly as your body yields it in scent. Your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within you that you have built against it. So this is just talking about the walls that we built up from receiving and giving love, and all of this is interconnected, and I'm so excited to be here and talk to you guys about it. I'm so lit. So this book discusses the need of loving yourself, and first step is simply by embracing yourself as you show up, allowing yourself to practice courage and embracing yourself and being vulnerable. And being vulnerable, what I mean by vulnerability, just being vulnerable and showing up authentically as yourself. So on page 23, there's a quote that reads, "When we spend a lifetime trying to distance ourselves from parts of ourselves that don't fit with who we think we are supposed to be, we stand outside of our story and hustle for worthiness by constantly performing, pleasing, perfecting, and proving." So when we connect love with our accolades, our accomplishments, our body types, our sexuality, our partners, just outside things, it feels like we could constantly be trying to strive for something by that way. When love naturally dwells within us, and it just takes us, one, acknowledging who we are and acknowledging that we are deserving of that love so we can give it to ourselves. By opening yourself up to being vulnerable, you never know who has wisdom and divine messages for you. So I typed all these notes out because if you know me personally, you know how my brain works. I'm a spider web talker. So if some of this doesn't flow all the way, you understand why. But there's this quote in the book that goes, "I gained permission to fall apart and be imperfect, and they shared their strengths and incredible wisdom with me." So the reason why I included that quote was, just for me personally, I'm not going to say a general statement and say everybody does it, because that's not true. Me personally, I find myself overcompensating a lot of time, and like she was saying, performing, perfecting, pleasing, improving, and just acting like, well, I'm strong enough, I can do it, or I'm going to go and get this degree because I'm worthy of it. And, just constantly using these accolades or overcompensating to feel worthy enough to receive the love that dwells within. So that's a little bit much to unpack at the very beginning of our introduction. So that's just some tips to think about. So let's just talk about, what is love? Again, that really depends on your own definition of what you think love means to you. What does it mean to love another human being? That is a definition only you can truly define. But for me personally, like I said, I think self-love as nurturing and caring, embracing, having a high regard for your own well-being and overall happiness. And when I think about that, about self-love, I think about my best friends and my family members and people who I am really close to, and I hold them up to such a high standard, and I love them so hard. And I had to stop myself when I entered on this journey and ask, do I love myself as much as I love my best friends? Do I love myself as much as I love my mom or my parents or my sister or whoever it is? Do I love and give myself the same amount of energy and nurturing as I give to all these other people? And I found myself staring back at myself and saying, no, I don't. I wasn't checking in with myself. I wasn't asking myself, how are you doing? Why do you feel that way? Or even just self-soothing and just being like, it's okay, hugging yourself, talking to yourself. I think for me personally, the self-love journey has shown me that I am a human being. And I know it's like not redundant, but maybe cliche, and it's like overlooked statement, but to actually sit and really think about yourself as a human being who's deserving of not just love, but your love that you give out, it was such like a mind-blowing thing to realize, because it was just so simple. It was like right in my face. The love that I was looking outside is the love that I'm supposed to be giving into myself. So um, that is what is self-love, and why I feel as though it's really important to discuss this, because um, a lot of times, not a lot of times, but you might be pouring from an empty cup because you're not loving yourself. Okay, so again, that ties us right into why is self-love so important. You cannot pour from an empty cup. I love that saying so much. It's just like pour, pour, pour. If you are depleted in your love, right? How can you fully give to someone else? Does that, and I was talking with my mom, and we were discussing a quote in the book about that, where Dr. Brene Brown discussed the like why do I have a hard time with this word? But just the reciprocity, help, you know what I'm saying. But just the ability to freely give and freely receive, and that talks about your heart chakra, okay, and two, it talks about your energy being filled up. But how does that relate to motherhood and just other aspects of your life? So that's another conversation I thought that was interesting to bring up. So you can't pour from an empty cup. It's important for self-love, because it's important to love on yourself, making sure that you are okay, that you're well taken care of, that you can self-soothe and take care of your needs. So you, one, understand who you are as a person. Two, understand your needs as a person. So that way when you do enter relationships, partnerships, friendships, you can, one, establish and know your boundaries. Two, communicate with what you need to your partners, and just things like that. Look at yourself as a human being you are. I already said that. The importance of giving yourself, thank you, reciprocity, thank you. The importance of giving to yourself, heart chakra, the ability to receive. I said all that. So self-love is way more than just a treat yourself session where you go out and you're obtaining some materialistic thing, nice dinners, get your nails done. It's way more than that. It's checking in with yourself mentally, physically, emotionally, sexually, on all facets, and just checking, like, am I good on this? How do I feel about this? It's a constant well-being check, a wellness check. Like, it's not one thing where it's just going to be like, okay, well, I checked in with myself this month, I'm good. Just as you constantly give to yourself, give to your relationships, it's going to require that same amount of energy to give to yourself. Hold on, there was a note. Exactly, we're going to come back to the same quote that I said on page 26. We can only give love. We can only love as much as we love ourselves. So just keeping that in mind when we're doing that. Self-love is so much more than that. Yes. So let me go back to that. So just checking in with yourself on a daily basis. Maybe if you feel a little uncomfortable, if you're driving to work, talk to yourself. How do I feel today? How are you feeling, Alicia? How are you feeling, Kim? How are you feeling, Drew? Just talk to yourself and check in. If you're close, okay, so an analogy that I wanted to present to you, if your close loved one, let's say your kid, let's say your best friend, let's say your family member was hurt, they fell down and they hurt themselves, God forbid, you would be more inclined to help them. You'd be like, oh, let me help you really quick. Could you say you would do the same thing for yourself? That is a question I want to propose. Like, Do you go above and beyond for others, but do you still extend that same amount of energy, care, and nurturing to yourself? If that is a no, there is an imbalance in the energy and it needs to be addressed. So do you talk to yourself? Do you ask yourself how you're feeling today? How do I feel about that? So the importance of talking to yourself, I think, like society makes it kind of taboo to talk to yourself. But again, we're a human being and we deserve the ability to just communicate with ourselves and just say, how are you feeling? How are you doing? How did you feel about that? Talk to yourself like you're talking to your best friend, right? Because by you building a relationship, building a trust with yourself, it's able for you. It's going to be better for you to build a connection. So if you read the book, you understand that we talk about connections in here as well. And I didn't have enough time because really, y'all, when I tell y'all, I typed up about 1,000 words for this discussion today, and we're just only on chapter 2. There's just so much you can unpack, but I wanted to focus on love and self-love. But it talks about connections in here, interconnections with people, interconnections with yourself. This is such a great book. But if you haven't read it, I really highly recommend you grabbing this book, and it's a quick read. But it just talks about connections, and just building a connection, building that trust with yourself. Yeah, yeah. Look, you got to build that connection with yourself. Okay. It's also detoxing away from people, knowing your worth, stepping away from things. Exactly, T. Just like, this isn't for my highest benefit. I don't deserve this, so I'm going to leave it. No matter how much we think we love it, or the item, or the job, or the person, if you don't feel good, don't stay for the sake of what you think love is. Do you love yourself more than, do you love yourself enough to make sure you are in a healthy position, in a healthy place for yourself? Do you think, okay, so I proposed, this idea came to me as I was writing these notes out. Do you think you are worthy as you are right now of love? More importantly, your love. So if you find that you have such a high standard to give love out, right? Where you're just like, oh, well, this is really shallow and vapid, but this is just an example. But it's just like, oh, if you don't have X, Y, and Z job, or if you're not, I don't know, intellectually capable to have a stimulating conversation, I'm not even going to waste my time. So if you have all these standards for love, do you feel like you're deserving of the love that you're giving out? That's a simple question. So the love that you pour into your family members, your friends, your community, your church, whatever you resonate, your pets, do you truly pour that same love and energy back into yourself? So you have that constant, I'm seeing a well. So I'm getting psychic messages as I'm doing this, okay? Matter of fact, I want to pull this card out because this is the exact same card I see. If you get readings from me, you know what card I might be talking about, but it's the creativity card. So hold on. Let's see how fast I can get it. Look, I'm not gonna rush. I don't know why I was pretending to rush. Yeah, yeah, you should not be guilty of loving yourself. Don't even, I wouldn't even allow anybody to tell me, like, how dare you love on me? What? Absolutely not. But this is the cup, this is the imagery that I'm seeing in my mind. So imagine yourself being this cup and being able to pour into everybody else because you're full. You're full of love, you're full of abundance, so that way you have all this residual energy to give out to others. Imagine, you're giving so much of yourself, and at the end of the day, you're drained, and all you can do is maybe drink a glass of wine and lay in the bed and watch some TV. Is that adequately loving yourself? Is that adequately checking in with yourself and making sure you're okay? So just respecting your boundaries. So, okay, we're on it's more than a treat yourself. Okay, so just 3 quotes that stood out to me for this section. And this one hit me like a ton of bricks. On page 9, you stop believing in your worthiness and start hustling for it. So at what point in time, and I'm not saying this is everybody, and this was in the book, like, but it resonated with me. And I had a conversation with my mom, and my mom was talking to me about how I became, me personally, a perfectionist. And I hadn't even been aware that I had adopted that quality of just trying to be perfect and trying to be an overachiever. Because when I was a kid, uh, I was lazy. All right, I didn't feel like doing anything, and so the needing to overcompensate to feel worthy, to show up and be like, oh well, I'm doing something because I'm doing X, Y, and Z, or I lost this weight, or I'm doing this. You know, just feeling worthy by just showing up who you are without the accomplishments. So, page 23. If we want to fully experience love and belonging, we must believe that we are worthy of love and belonging. So, just again, you are worthy, okay? We all are worthy of the love, specifically the love that dwells within each and every one of us. So, page 6. If you want to know why we're all so afraid to let ourselves be seen and known, we have to understand the power of shame and fear. If we can't stand up to never good enough and who do you think you are, we cannot move forward. So this one, I was grappling with how to piece all this together because I thought it was so important. The importance of just intrusive thoughts and how it interferes with self-love, but not only just self-love, but your manifestation abilities. So I'm going to go into that. So, intrusive thoughts can have you finding yourself slow boiling in a pot of questioning your validity of your feelings, thoughts, or even your existence. So, for me personally, intrusive thoughts look like just the smallest whisper of an idea where I might feel something in it and it just come up and be like, are you sure you're not overreacting? And then I'll just bypass it and it'll snowball and snowball to all I can think about are intrusive thoughts, and I'm being consumed with fear and just all these things, just fear to just show up and be myself, right? um so hold on. So when you have intrusive thoughts, how can that affect your self-love? Like I'm saying again, if you have all these intrusive, negative, low vibrational thoughts, it's kind of hard for you to constantly pour love on yourself, right? If you're constantly thinking, I'm not good enough, how are you going to be able to combat that energy by saying, no, you are good enough? So that's what I wanted to focus on, is shame and intrusive thoughts. So when the slow creep happens, stop, ask, and challenge those thoughts. So if something comes in and you just say, am I good enough? Or no, let me rephrase that. Let's say you're working on a project and you say, this project is not good enough. It doesn't look like Susie Q's over here. Just stopping yourself and challenging, why do I feel this way? Where is this coming from? Following the string of that thought and pinpointing it. Because a lot of times, and this is me speaking as like a spiritual healer, to y'all, like the clients that come to me, a lot of times we're playing like follow the rope. So where this connected to, and a lot of times it's connected back to the heart chakra, dealing with the inner child stuff. I'm just gonna say it a lot of it connects to the inner child stuff. But just making sure you're taking the time to talk to yourself, and taking the time to figure out where is this coming from. And by you embracing that and embracing the thought process and asking, maybe even journal, like, why do I feel this way? Why do I feel this way? And really challenging and showing yourself, well, I know this isn't right because X, Y, and Z, or just fact checking, kind of a thing. So fear, anxiety, overthinking are low vibrational thought patterns. So when we allow ourselves to give in, we may find it more difficult to manifest things of higher vibration. So I'm learning right now in my phase of life to not manifest out of a place of fear. When I was manifesting out of a place of fear of like, oh, am I going to get it? I don't know if I'm going to get it. I don't think I am. I don't think I'm powerful enough, or blah, 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 blah. I realized what I was manifesting was not a stable, it wasn't stable. It didn't suit my highest good. It was short-lived. It wasn't something of substance. It wasn't stable, okay? So by being in such a low vibrational place of intrusive thoughts and shame, it affects your ability to manifest. It affects your ability to fully love on yourself, Okay, so that was a whole thought process. So that was just the beginning part of what I wanted to include. And really, I didn't want to go too long because I could have done a whole hour full of this conversation. If you've been around me before, I used to do book clubs like 2 years ago. So I'm excited to continue this. So how I'm going to conclude this portion is, as I was meditating, doing this work, a chanting exercise was given to me, a journal prompt was given to me. I have an ending quote. I pulled an affirmation and self-love care card, and then I'm just going to tell you when we'll be meeting up next to discuss the next 2 chapters. So for the journal prompt, if you feel inclined to write it down, how would you show up in the world if there wasn't a need to please, impress family, friends, coworkers, or society? So it might not even be something that everybody has to deal with. But again, me personally, I didn't think, I was like, I'm a free bird, I don't care what anybody says. But at the end of the day, um, I find myself stifling my existence or my expression of my existence because I'm afraid of judgment. I'm afraid of showing up and being vulnerable and having the courage to show up authentically. So that's just a journal prompt I wanted to give to you all. A chanting exercise to help with that throat chakra. I am worthy. I am deserving. My voice is heard. I belong. I am loved. So the affirmation cards that I pulled, to truly flourish is to release all the tension that holds me back from letting love pour through me. Y'all ain't ready on this day. Y'all ain't ready. So letting go of the tension, letting go of just that intrusive thoughts, um, shame, just letting it go. And then something I wanted to mention on shame, and I was speaking to someone about that, and I wanted to see if, I guess I didn't get to writing it out, and it was a beautiful poem. I want to see, not a poem, but a word. Let me see. I don't think I tabbed it off, but I'm going to paraphrase, and it's basically talking about how shame cannot exist, and I really wanted to read it. How shame cannot exist when we share. Yeah, I don't know where it is. So when we share, so shame exists in secret. So when we're not talking about what's going on in our hearts, in our heart spaces, in our mind, and we're just bottling it up because we're afraid to be vulnerable, and we're afraid to build into and rely on those connections. I'm gonna upload it. What I'm gonna start doing is uploading these videos on the YouTube channel as a podcast, because we're basically doing podcasts. But how basically shame cannot exist out in the open. So finding, this is gonna bug the mess out of me. Finding people you trust to pour into. Here we go. Sure did, because I wrote a note on it. That's how I found it. Okay, so this is what she says about shame. We have to own our story and share it with someone who has earned the right to hear it. Someone whom we can count to respond with compassion. We need courage, compassion, and connection immediately, ASAP. So when we find ourselves in these like endless loops, hey beloved, endless loops of just overthinking and shame and intrusive thoughts, we can help ourselves by just letting it out. And that's why I started this session with the counseling, because I know that there is a stigma. I know it's not as big as it was a few years ago about seeking mental help, but it does wonders to just sit there and just speak and say, these are the thoughts that I have. And I know that they don't seem logical all the time, but I just need to get it out so it doesn't just continue like a tornado in your space. So releasing the tension by just opening up your throat chakra and relying on your soul tribe or people you trust, so that way you can release the tension and allow love to fully flow through you and pour through you. So what self-love activities can we do to assist ourselves on our journey? Make a meal. So self-love is talking about on all facets, and one of which is what we put in our body. And I'm so guilty of this. I go on like junk food binges where I'll just eat junk food all day. I'm just like, meh. But self-love is making sure that we're taking care of our avatar and making sure that we are treating our bodies properly. Beauty ritual. Now this isn't just talking about, sorry, when I channel, I always have gas. But beauty rituals aren't just talking about like outward beauty, but inward beauty. Like, what do you do? What activities can you do that really gets you excited for just inner work? For me, I like to write poetry, or I like to paint. That's what makes me feel beautiful inside. It's like me expressing my soul. So we're being called to do a beauty ritual of whatever resonates with you. Abundance planning. Self-love can also look like financial wellness, okay? If you out here doing treat yourselves every day and you treat yourself into debt, all right, now you stress. So self-love can look like just making sure you're doing the best thing for yourself, so you're taking care of yourself on all facets. And lastly, soak in a bath and just taking that time to be mindful with yourself, really love on yourself in that bath. And I've added links to different self-love baths. So that has been our session tonight, y'all. I am so excited to be here with y'all and discuss this. Please get the book if you haven't. I'm going to look for a PDF that I can upload. The second portion of our book discussion will be December 2nd, We'll go at same time, 7 o'clock Central Standard Time. We'll be discussing pages 23 and 49. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. And the very last quote I wanted to end us all with before we conclude our night is by Rumi. You have within you more love than you could ever understand. So let's begin and tap in and shower ourselves with all the love. All the love. So, you all, I am just so thankful for this group, and I wish you all a beautiful, beautiful night. Bye.